The storm rolled in without warning. One moment, Magnus Henderson was roped into his climbing party, steadily ascending the western face of Gankhar Puensum. The next, a howling wind descended from the heavens, dragging a wall of blinding white fury behind it. Snow pelted his goggles like shards of glass, and the howling storm swallowed the sound of his comrades' voices. Magnus cursed himself for underestimating Gankhar Puensum. With an elevation of 7,570 meters, or 24,836 feet, Gankhar is the world's highest, unclimbed mountain. It is located on the border between Bhutan and the autonomous region of Tibet in China. Gankhar Puensum is a mountain shrouded in local legends. Its name means, White Peak of the Three Spiritual Brothers. The villagers in the foothills had warned his team of Norwegian mountaineers about the mountain's ghost winds and phantom whispers, but they had laughed it off as folklore. Now, with visibility down to mere feet, those warnings felt like cold fingers tightening around his chest. Magnus yelled into the void and hoped that his friends could hear him, but the roaring gale smothered his words. His ice axe trembled in his grip as he braced against the furious winds. A sudden, violent tug on the rope yanked him forward, and then, just as suddenly, it went slack. The realization hit him like an avalanche. The rope had snapped. Panic surged through his veins. He was alone, suspended in the vastness of the storm, with no way of knowing how far he had drifted from his team. Magnus forced himself to move. Staying still would mean freezing to death. He anchored his axe into the ice and began to climb downward, hoping to find a sheltered crevasse or overhang to wait out the storm. The mountain seemed alive, its surface shifting and cracking beneath him. It whispered in the spaces between the gusts, low, guttural murmurs that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He was thankful that the darkness of the storm was about to be replaced by the blue sky, because the strong wind pushed the clouds away from his position. Hours passed, or was it only minutes? For Magnus, time had lost all meaning. His limbs ached with exhaustion, and his breaths came in shallow gasps. His mind began to play tricks on him. Shadows moved in the periphery of his vision. Once, he thought he saw a figure, standing just ahead, shrouded in the swirling snow. "Axel," he called out, his voice cracking. The figure did not respond. Instead, it turned and vanished into the storm, leaving only faint footprints in the snow. Magnus followed them, desperate for any sign of life. The footprints led him to a jagged ridge, where the storm seemed to ease. The howling winds softened to an eerie silence, and the snow fell in a delicate, almost hypnotic pattern. He could see again, though the world around him was monochrome and surreal. Then he saw it. At the edge of the ridge stood a lone stone statue, ancient and weathered. It was adorned with faded prayer flags, their colors long bleached by the elements. Magnus felt his heart sink. He knew this place from pictures. It was the marker at 5,000 meters, or 16,400 feet, photographed by a Polish expedition in the 1980s. Nobody knew who originally had erected that statue at this high altitude, and how they managed to accomplish this impossible task. The statue's location was believed to be the highest point a human has ever reached on Gankhar Puensum. However, it was still a long way below the unclimbed summit. During the summit attempt, 4 members of that Polish expedition vanished, never to be seen again. He whispered in disbelief. How is this possible? He had been descending for hours, he was sure of it. Yet, he was higher than ever, on the route to the top of the mountain. A soft voice broke the silence. "You shouldn't have come." Magnus spun around. Standing before him was the figure he'd seen in the storm. It was cloaked in thick furs, its face obscured by a heavy hood. Yet its voice was unmistakably human. "Who are you?" Magnus demanded. His voice trembled, more from fear than cold. The figure stepped closer, its movements impossibly smooth. When it spoke again, its tone was laced with sorrow. "Many have come here, seeking to conquer. But Gankhar does not forgive trespassers." Trying to control and hide his fear, Magnus stammered, "I don't understand. I just need to find my team. Please, help me." The figure tilted its head as if in pity. Then it raised a gloved hand and pointed behind him. Magnus turned, and his blood ran cold. Lying in the snow, just a few feet away, was a body. It was curled in a fetal position, half buried beneath a layer of ice. The clothes were painfully familiar: the down jacket with a torn sleeve, snow pants, and scuffed crampons had the same colors as his mountaineering outfit. Magnus took a closer look at the body. He was face to face with himself. Magnus staggered back, his mind reeling. The figure's voice came again, softer now, almost a whisper. "The mountain has claimed you. Return to her embrace, and you will find peace." Magnus screamed, but did not make a sound, as his voice was muted. He assured himself, "It can't be true. I must be hallucinating." He turned and ran, his legs burning as he plunged into the storm. The whispers grew louder, surrounding him and pulling at his sanity. Faces emerged in the snow, pale, hollow-eyed apparitions of those who had come before him. They reached out with icy hands, their voices blending into a haunting chorus. "You cannot leave." Magnus stumbled, falling to his knees. His strength was gone, his body frozen and numb. As the storm closed in around him, he thought he saw the figure again, standing at the edge of his vision. This time, its hood was pulled back, revealing a face he recognized. It was his own. Months later, a rescue team found the body of Magnus on a small sheltered platform at 3,800 meters, or 12,500 feet, halfway to the summit of Gankhar Puensum. On his face was a strange expression, like a combination of horror and a faint peaceful smile. The rescuers marveled at how intact he was, as if the mountain had preserved him in ice. His climbing party had long since descended, believing him lost to the storm. But the villagers whispered a different story. They claimed that Gankhar had taken another soul, adding it to the countless others who wandered its slopes, forever lost between life and death. To this day, climbers speak of the whispers on Gankhar Puensum. And some say, if you listen closely, you can hear a voice among them, calling for help that will never come.
We hope you enjoyed this chilling mountaineering story. If so, we would appreciate it if you would leave a comment and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.